morning, good afternoon, and good evening, viewers. Welcome once more to Requiem for London. Our scene is set this evening as we find Miss Abruzzo in her apartment. She is just sitting behind her desk staring at a computer, her work laptop. She is not really focused on it right now, more the harrowing visions that she had experienced during the day's sleep, the ones that kept her up and robbed her of any small semblance of, shall we say, not refreshment, but repose.
And Adriana just blankly stares at the laptop in front of her. Normally, she would already be a buzz with activity, shooting off emails, reading reports, reading security feeds, sending information up the chain to her sire, to whomever in Chimera would have requested it. But she is completely at a loss. She has suffered some kind of unbearable nightmare. And she's starting to have an idea of where this may have come from. Her eyes kind of glance slowly at this, quite frankly, cheap-looking amulet that Mr. Graves seems to have passed along to her, and because she is not a stupid person, she realizes there may be a connection. However, before she's able to complete that thought, her phone rings.
The number is one you do not fully recognize. However, there are very few people you have given your number to, limiting exactly who could be on the other line, down by a considerable amount. Not only that, but this is the number for casual calls. It's not your work phone that's buzzing right now.
As the phone rings, Adriana almost, jumps with a start. She was hoping to not be bothered today, but apparently she will have to muddle through, regardless of what forces are bearing down on her this particular evening. She picks up the phone and very flatly says, "This is Adriana."
Hello, this is Jack Callahan. We spoke before once at the church. I'm calling to see if you are perhaps available for a chat. You said that you and I had a history, one that I'm a bit muddled about. And he chooses his words very carefully and probably poorly, as Adriana might raise an eyebrow at that. You can almost detect the hint of frustration, like perhaps he might have choked on this phone call. But he carries on nonetheless, saying, "Are you available tonight, or is this a bad time?"
As Adriana listens to Mr. Callahan kind of stutter and stumble through the conversation, she kind of puts her head in her hand and shakes her head, although he can't see it. Before she answers his question, she says, "How are you doing, Jack?"
Oh, well, not bad. And that's a clear lie, even from across the phone. Yourself?
"Don't ask," she says. As she says that, you will hear her kind of rustling papers, and she will say, "There's a coffee shop in Canary Wharf called Taylor's Coffee. How soon can you be there?"
About 10 to 15 minutes.
She'll say, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll meet you there, and I'll tell you what I can, but I can't promise that it'll make you any happier or any more the wiser.
Is there's a bit of a pause on the other end of the line, and then he just sort of sighs and says, "That's fine. I'm beginning to realize that things are never going to get better."
Adriana smiles when he says that, and she says, "Now you're catching on." And then she hangs up the phone. Click.
All right. Does she get ready immediately?
Yes, she will, kind of look around the room and, put on clothes that are available. She's not, going to go out of her way. It's not like, she's meeting with any of her covenant mates. She heads over to her refrigerator and kind of very mechanically, takes one of the um, blood bags that she has in storage and very quickly sucks it down as she's lost some of her vitae over the night when she woke up in her night sweats. And she pauses for a moment and shakes her head, hoping she can get through this meeting with this individual who, she hasn't heard from and quite frankly hadn't thought of in some time. She will make her way down to Taylor's barista coffee shop, which is in Canary Wharf, and she will be waiting for Jack when he comes in. She'll be there with her laptop.
When Jack arrives, it's about probably like maybe 9 or 10. It's still relatively early in the night. There's still a considerable amount of probably the night owls hanging around, the kind basically gathered together in groups or perhaps at the bar, some on laptops like Adriana, but making sure that Miss Abruzzo is able to blend into the crowd quite easily and without the need for any kindred disciplines. She'll notice Jack walk in as soon as he does so. As he sort of scans the room, it takes him maybe a minute or two to notice Adriana sort of tucked away in one of the nooks and crannies of the places on her laptop. She'll notice that Jack is much more well dressed than last time. He's wearing still, I guess, casual wear, but it's of a much finer quality. It looks like that he chose something almost to be presentable in a manner of speaking.
Adriana will see this man, and she does smile in earnest as he was in, quite a state the last few times she's seen him, and her mind kind of flips back to when he was, kind of imprisoned in that wooden coffin in McGee's shop or the shop adjacent to his shop. She will wave him over, and she's dressed in jeans and a blazer tonight. Nothing. She looks like any other young professional who's extending the workday in the coffee shop, and she invites him to have a seat facing her.
When you wave him over, he'll smile and he'll begin to approach. And as he does so, you'll notice a few mannerisms about him that have also changed a bit. As he does so, you'll notice his nostrils flare ever so slightly as he just sort of smells the environment. It is hauntingly reminiscent of some of McGee's own quirks, but he doesn't seem to be aware of this connection. But he does sort of get that confused look upon his face again, as though he's trying to remember something, but then just shrugs it off, trying his best to hide it as he takes the seat adjacent to Adriana and says, "It's good to see you again. Again, I'm sorry that our last meeting ended so unfortunately for you. I must apologize again, although it's not my place in regards to my boss."
Um, Adriana will, as he's, going into this long diatribe and apology, she's tapping away at her computer, and as he sits down, she stops. And she will just kind of look up at him And she'll say, "Don't apologize. We can't answer for our elders, can we?"
Azil nods and says, "Exactly. But I'm glad that you've agreed to meet with me."
She will, can I assume he looks kind of agitated without?
He does, yes.
Okay.
He's doing his best to hide it, but this is what you do. This is Adriana's speciality. You're easily able to detect it in his facial expression, sort of the way he sits. He is quite on edge, but not at you. That's the one thing you notice. If anything, he sort of looks out of the corners of his eyes sometimes. Maybe his nostrils will flare at strange moments, or maybe his ears will twitch. And he keeps on looking towards the windows as if something was to walk by, something that perhaps he's worried about or anxious about.
Does he have Blush of Health activated?
Yes, he does, actually. You will notice that it looks like Mr. Callahan might have had some more proper training in to present himself in public recently.
She will snap the laptop close and kind of look at him intently. And she will say, "Unless you have a good reason to be, don't act so nervous in public. It tends to draw attention."
My apologies, I'm still getting the hang of it. But I found a good teacher.
She sits back in her chair and kind of nods, and she says, "So I saw. So tell me, Mr. Callahan, what is it that you think I can enlighten you about?"
Well, it's just what you said when you were leaving the church. You said, "Come speak to me if you ever want to talk about the good old days."
She smirks and looks down and shakes her head, and she said, and he may hear this, and she just says, "Oh, has to be tonight. Had to be tonight." And she looks at him and she says, "I understand that you've had a rough time coming into all of this mess. Believe me, it's not easy for any of us. But can you tell me what the first thing you remember waking up in the night? What's the first memory of yours recently?"
You mean after.
After.
Hmm.
And she puts her hands up.
So he'll sort of again look nervously to each side. Sort of lean in, he'll whisper, "Just water. Surrounded by water, floating in the Thames. Not needing to breathe, no heartbeat, able to move, able to move so well." And then blank. Until.
She'll nod as he says this, as she knows more of the backstory as to what was happening and who was causing this, and that perhaps once upon a time they may have ended up being clanmates, but that's not the way it went down.
Hmm.
She
Hold on,
says,
quick thing. Give
sure.
me a wits plus empathy real fast.
Sure.
This will be minus a subterfuge, which is 2, thanks to his training with good old Chloe Brothers. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Zip.
In that case, nothing else.
um, Adriana's eyes will narrow and she'll say, "Do you remember that night in the church at all? What can you tell me?"
You mean the last time we met, or.
She says, "No, before that."
I remember awakening in some sort of box with my sire and the.
She puts her hand up as she says that, and she says, "Jack, why don't we take a walk?"
Yes, as he just sort of looks and sort of swears under his breath, just a shit. And thinking back to what Miss Brothers told him about being careful about what you say, even in whispers.
She will, kind of pack her laptop into her bag, and she will exit the coffee shop and, expect Jack to follow her out.
And he will. In fact, he'll be sort of
Just
lockstep with her. It seems to just come naturally to Jack to just sort of follow suit. It'll be something that Adriana picks up on.
Yeah, sorry, I had a great outside picture of the wharf, but it seems to have gone away. So
No.
they will just be walking, in the wharf. At this time of night, the wharf is typically a business area. So while there are people around, it wouldn't be like Smithfield Market.
Oh,
They're
yes.
scattered. So they have some privacy walking around
I would
together.
describe it as that most of the kind are sort of inside of the buildings right now, trying to ignore sort of the dark night that's looming outside, trying to stay out of the
Right.
street as that distinct London chill begins to creep in. Perhaps a bit of fog accompanies it as well from over the water. But they walk and talk.
Um, so as they walk, Adriana will pause by a fountain that's not running water at the moment. It's just kind of empty, and she'll set her laptop bag down. At this point, you may notice that Adriana is wearing gloves, but she's wearing the kind that have the fingers cut out, so she
Hmm.
can type on the computer, which is where she spends most of her time. And it is getting chillier, certainly the winter months. And she says, "So you remember waking up in the box with Mr. Fahim, is it? Am I getting that right?"
Yes, and our church's priest,
Right,
Father
right.
Manus.
I've heard of him. Yes. So you remember that and not much else, is that right?
That is when my nights began, or I guess that's the proper way of saying it. Really, that's when shit kept on getting worse, should I say.
She will kind of fold her arms and look at Jack, and she'll say, "I'll tell you a few things, Jack. I can't make things better for you. And certainly if you speak to extended family members in town," and she kind of gives him a half smile, "most of them will probably tell you to steer clear of me for one reason or another. Some of them true, some of them not. But how well your nights go from here on out are largely up to you.
What do you mean by that?
If you don't like where you are, you can certainly change that if you want after you get the hang of things, but understand that you are very, very new. And this kind of change is hard for anyone, but understand in many cases the alternative is worse."
I think I understand. A few things have happened recently, and I think I'm starting to find, I guess, a place for myself here. It's still hell. Look, as he just sort of looks around again, making sure they're not around, or no one else is around. Something really weird happened to me a few days ago, and I don't know if it's connected to my past, but it's connected to me somehow. Have you ever known someone was coming? Have you been able to feel another one of our kind?
She will look at him very intently, and she'll say, "Mr. Fahim has not told you about this, I take it?"
Not yet. He said that if you read a book to someone, it doesn't have as much input as someone reading the book themselves. He prefers that I take a more active approach in discovering our condition.
So that's how they do things in the church. And she kind of smirks a little bit.
Well, I've heard it varied. I've met another member of the congregation recently. A nice lady, from what I can tell. She she really helped me out of a jam. I'm not sure how it is for some of the other parishes, but for mine, a more hands-on approach is preferred.
She will look down the street again, just making sure that they are not being eavesdropped on or followed, and it appears to be quite empty where they are. And she will say, so when you say you felt someone coming, this would be more than perhaps you seeing me and sensing me in the coffee shop we were just in. It was a stronger pull. Is that what you mean?
Yes, and that's not the strangest thing to happen to me. I've also had horrible nightmares. I've felt strange presence from buildings I've never been to before.
Tell me about your nightmares, Jack.
As he sort of sits down, not that close to you, but next to you nonetheless, and just sort of fidgets with his hands. Again, it almost looks like, quite, again, subconsciously channeling his father, his sire, like a naughty child almost who's like did something wrong and is afraid to tell like a parental figure about it, but he'll just look up and say, I've had a nightmare about a laboratory of some kind. There were people in cages screaming. When their hands touched the bars, they burned. I've seen people in white coats hooking up devices to me, but I'm not me. I'm some woman, half burned with pitch black eyes, and it's horrible. And it's been happening more regularly than it can be a coincidence.
She looks at Jack, and she's really conflicted because there's a lot she can tell him. And if she tells him everything, it'll probably break him in half. He will just go, because she's seen it before. She will say, what do the sanctum tell you to do when you struggle with nightmares or matters of faith?
Well, the whole church's stance on it is that it's another sign to test our resolve to what they feel is the purpose of our kind. And I guess it makes sense. I mean, things aren't going to get better, so I guess it is comforting to feel that all this is happening for a reason.
For some, she will say. She will also say, as far as your nightmares, I would tell this to Mr. Fahim and ask him for whatever prayers, vigil. I know they work in ways that I can't work. So they may have protections for you that I cannot offer. I'm not so sure that I can help you in this area, but there are more powerful out there among us, and sometimes they reach out to others when they shouldn't be. That could be what's happening to you.
Do you mean that was actually somebody? That somebody is suffering that much right now?
It's possible. It could be a memory. It could be someone else's dream that they are inflicting on you. Things get very dark here, Jack.
when you say that it's not necessarily what is happening, he does calm down a little bit as he just says, "Fuck, man."
She says, Jack, I've had dreams where my bathroom exploded and I was being drowned in blood. Did it really happen? No. Did someone else want me to think that? You bet.
All right, thanks. That does help.
And she will look at him very earnestly and she'll say, whatever tools the sanctum has to offer you, take it. Learn whatever they want you to learn, because it will only help you protect yourself, because you will find there are others out there who don't have your best interest at heart, simply because you exist.
All right, thank you, Adriana. There is another thing, though, the pull that I've been feeling to a place and to, I guess, another kindred. Do you know of a store called Treadwell's?
You don't even have to roll for this. She winces when you say that, and she will point at him and she will say, stay far away from Treadwell's.
Wow, that is the exact same thing that my sire said.
Your sire is a smart man. It's run by an individual called Mr. Graves. I call him the puppet master. He likes fucking with people because he's bored and ugly.
Wow, does not sound like somebody I'd want to meet.
No.
Hmm.
She says, and I hate to talk badly about my elders, and he is actually a clanmate of mine. And she's kind of patronizing when she says that. But he is a black-hearted bastard. And if he knows about you, he'll mess with you just because he's got nothing else to do. And you haven't seen her kind of get annoyed, but you can clearly see she's annoyed when she talks about him. Let me ask you this. And you can see she hesitates, but she really wants to bring this up. And she says, do you feel any kind of affinity for Smithfield Market?
I've not been to the place. I've heard about it. A friend of mine says that they sell some really good meats there, but no, not for the place, as far as I can tell. Hmm. But there is the black dog. That was the last
Adriana,
thing.
she kind of crooks her head and says, what black dog?
Remember that other churchgoer that I met? She and another individual who I think I might consider a friend, ally, we met at a bar a while ago called the Swamp Donkey. When I joined them there, I sensed this creature, this black dog with red eyes hiding under a booth. It was one of us. It was transformed somehow to look like an animal, but it was one of us. And I could hear it. I know that those of my clan have the ability to hear and communicate with the animals, but it spoke to me. It called me son. I don't know what it means. And then it just went crazy and attacked people, and then fled into the night. It was a potential masquerade breach. I almost, well, and then he gets a bit quieter and tenser, as you can tell that this is not something he enjoys remembering. But he continues anyway. I almost lost control. And a friend of one of those was injured trying to help me. And the three of us have formed a group to try and find this individual and bring some sort of form of justice. The masquerade was threatened that night, but I don't know what to do. This is so fucked up.
Adriana will ask, so why are you taking it upon yourselves to exact justice on this dog?
Because if we don't,
Because if you don't, what?
then all that suffering was for naught.
When you say
Kind of
suffering, what happened exactly? Did this black dog kill somebody?
close.
Hmm.
The ambulances were called, and a lot of people were rushed to the hospital. Worse, one of the individuals hit the person, and I think they untransformed. They said that they saw a dog transform into a man and bolt off.
Oh, God. She will look distressed when you tell her this. Enough has been going on in her own life that she hasn't bothered with anything else. And she says, where did this take place? A bar called the Swamp Donkey. Where is this? She takes out her smartphone and starts tapping into it.
And he'll give you the exact address, but then he'll pause and he'll say, there's something else too, something personal for me. If this individual is brought in, I might never get a chance to find out who this person was or what they meant and how I knew them. If we don't catch the black dog, then I might never have these questions answered. That is why I personally am helping these individuals.
She stops tapping into her smartphone and she will look at Jack and she'll say, I can help you find these answers, but I'm not so sure the black dog is the one to help you. But if you want, I can look into it. And if I do look into it, I might need to request you join me somewhere. Would you be willing to do that?
Yes, that is fine. It's. And again, he really struggles finding words for what comes next before just sort of giving up and saying, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I can trust you. And that is incredibly strange because I just met you a few nights ago. I don't know what it is, but I mean, you've had that happen to you before, right?
Um, Adriana is going to lie to him.
All right.
Adriana is going to say, of course. So,
Let's see
what
if
do I
we
need to
can.
roll here?
Oh, let's see. That would be a. We'll have it be a contested roll. It'll be your manipulation plus subterfuge against his wits plus empathy. And he does not have empathy, so this is just going to be a single dice, not a chance die.
Okay, I have 4.
Oh, goody.
I get 1 success.
Let's see if I can roll a 10 and then another success. Oh, would you mind rolling for me? I still don't have
Oh,
access to Dice
sure.
Roller.
1 dice?
Yep, just one. Nope.
Nope. So
So
you're going to believe whatever she tells you.
Oh yeah, he nods his head and smiles, glad that it's not just him who sort of gets this feeling, almost a nostalgia for this individual.
She will say, Jack, listen very carefully. Trust your feelings, but also trust your mind. If things don't make sense, chances are they're not true. And there are those of us who spend lifetime upon lifetime learning how to manipulate other people's feelings. Again, it's not necessarily that they hate you, it's because they're bored and have nothing else to do.
All right.
Find something to do in your life now so you don't become like that. Because that is sad. Wouldn't you agree?
Izzy just sort of looks down and does shake his head.
Um, it's not something she normally does. And you know, those people who have interacted with Adriana know she's kind of rather cold than not, but she will kind of lightly touch his hand and she will say, just hang in there.
All right. Thank you, Adriana. If if you need any help, I'll do what I can. I mean, I'm not, well, never been the best of persons, but I do have some skills that might be helpful, especially if anyone's giving you a hard time. Just let me know. I can help you with that.
Um, she'll nod at him, smiling probably broader on the inside than she is on the outside. She says, Jack, security is my business. I help keep people safe. But I appreciate your offer, and I will be in touch. You lay low and keep yourself safe.
Thanks.
And with that, Adriana will gather her things and nod to him before she leaves, and she will head off in the direction towards her haven.
He does stop you for a brief
Oh,
moment as
sure.
you start walking away. He just says, Adriana, did we meet before? Before I can remember.
um, Adriana will look at him and she will say, Jack, it's difficult for me to answer that question because you weren't you.
He'll nod as he gets this very deep sinking feeling in his gut as very recently he was almost not him again.
She will say, you have to embrace the future or the past will drown you.
So he'll nod and he'll smile and say, understood.
We will talk again soon. And she will make haste to try and get away because she's at the point where if she overloads him with information, he will snap. So she will, as she walks away, you will also notice that she really doesn't make a whole lot of noise while she does that. She just kind of fades into the shadows of the night as she goes.
So that just leaves Jack sitting on this abandoned fountain, just staring off into the harbor. And that is where we will end our scene. Thank you all for watching, and have a lovely night.